We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's time to get into formation. We gotta get ready for the battle. So call on your brothers and sisters. We gotta turn back to the scriptures. Stop making it all about you. Them preachers, they got it confused. Come out of her. Cause Yahuwah is our deliverer. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed, cause nobody's perfect. We're called by his name. We're called by his name. Seek him to be worthy. We should be coming together. There's power in unity. It's time to come into the order, cause we are a living prophecy. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. Lace up them boots. We gotta move stealth mode, put on camouflage. We gotta be wise. Open your eyes to the most high in the skies. We must stop arguing, it's irrelevant. We must live in the Torah, it's heaven sent. He will put it in your heart, fulfilling the word of the new covenant. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed, cause nobody's perfect. We're called by his name. We're called by his name. Seek him to be worthy. We should be coming together. There's power in unity. It's time to come into the order, cause we are a living prophecy. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. Principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. Principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. It's a spiritual combat. Put on camouflage. Eyes in the sky. New covenant.
Shalom, 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 y'all. It's your boy, Michael Israel. You are watching Spiritual Combat, and we got a special edition here today. As y'all can see, I got my Ock, Ugo, and my other Ock, Richardson Kelly, and we are going to just have a discussion and about the Covington Catholic situation that happened down there in D.C. So we're going to chop it up and make sure you truly get a fair and balanced understanding of the situation. I'm sure a lot of y'all have seen the news and the angle they of course they tried to put on it. You know the way the news is, and this nation that we are in captivity in, they're allowed to do whatever they want, but you're not even allowed to feel, let alone say anything that you want. So anyway, with that said, man, I'm just real excited to have my Ock Richardson Kelly and Ugo on the show. Shalom to y'all, Ox.
Shalom.
I want to say shalom, lak, mashpaka.
All right. And Ugo, if you could can you turn your mic up a little?
On my phone, right?
Let me check my audio over here on this end. Go ahead and say something, Ugo.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just my microphone. But anyway, yeah, so this Covington situation, Kelly, if you could just go ahead for those people who might be watching who might not be familiar with the situation, if you could just bring them up to speed on what actually happened.
Sure. A week ago, out at the Lincoln Memorial, there was a standoff between a high school student and a Native American, an elder from the Omaha tribe. So it went viral, and there was a lot of, of course, different news outlets, media outlets that was really highlighting what took place in terms of that situation where you have this high school student that looks like he's probably a junior or senior, just kind of making certain gestures, mocking this elder, just kind of like have a smirk on his face, standing face to face to him. And you see, if you see some of the other videos, you see that how overall this group of students, they were doing like a mohawk chop and things along that lines. So it went viral, but probably about 3 or 4 days later, more information started coming out, and the narrative shifted from being the focus on this Catholic school and this student to the Hebrew Israelites. It was probably about 4 or 5 out there that were teaching publicly at this Lincoln Memorial. So the narrative shifted from the student to the actual Hebrew Israelites that were out there to suggest that the reason why all of this occurred was because of the Hebrew Israelites. And so the goal today is to really shed light on what actually happened, what transpired, and who's to blame. I mean, who needs to be held accountable for this entire situation that took place. So that's what transpired. It started off with just seeing the clip of the high school student smirking in the face of an elder while the elder is beating on the drum. And now where the narrative is now moved from that to an angle on trying to put all the blame on the Hebrew Israelites. So that's where we are right now for those that are not aware of what just transpired this past week.
Okay. And me, what happened with me when now I'm not sure the exact day that all this went down, but I think it was on a Friday. It might have been on Thursday, but I was up
Yeah, it
in
was a
New
Friday.
York City when this right after this happened, and I actually I had invited those brothers, the Hebrew Israelite brothers, to the premiere of Ron Dalton's movie. So I met them. I've talked to them before. They real cool, straight up brothers, and I knew as soon as they told me ahead of time. They said, "Hey man, it really popped off down there in D.C." They were like, "You're gonna be hearing about it. It's gonna be big, you know." And but I knew after I saw, because after they told me that, you know, I didn't think nothing of it. Next time I heard something about it, I was coming into work, and the people at my job were like, "Ain't you one of those Hebrew Israelites?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "What about it?" And then they showed me on the news where they're villainizing this guy, and I knew that if I want to get the truth about this, just ask him, because initially they were saying some crazy things on the news that I automatically know not to be true. But yeah. But with that said, Ugo, what do you think? What did you think of the whole situation?
I didn't get to watch the whole video, but I seen some of the clips. But the thing is, being here in America, we know how the news present our people. So just looking at those short clips and what was going on, I automatically knew something was off. I mean, for them to even be putting this out there in the media like that, for whatever they're trying to get started. So I was checking a little bit into the history, and then of course I got to talking to Kelly and all those acts of the conversation on the phone. Then everything started to come out slowly. So I just say I'm glad to be on here and just bring it out.
Yeah,
what's really going on under the table.
So Kelly, you sent me some footage, and I'm gonna let you go ahead because you said you had some I guess some unique angles of how you saw it. So I'll let you bring that out.
Well, I want to start off with the scripture, because I like to always use scripture, and you guys familiar with the scripture, the 83rd book of Psalms, verse 2 through 4, and I just want to just highlight that real quick, so we can see how the scriptures prophesied these things to happen. That's going to happen, or the things that we see taking place right now. And it reads, it says, "For lo, thine enemies make a tumult." In other words, Hamai, and they that hate Shana or Shana'ah, thee have lifted up the head. And it goes on to say, they have taken crafty counsel, Sawad, against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. And verse 4 says, they have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel, the name Hashem of Israel, may be no more in remembrance. So I just wanted to just kind of highlight that scripture. And what's interesting about that word Talmud, Hamai, that word actually, it means, of course, war cry. Hamai is a war cry. It is a noise, right? And then when you take it a step further and you look up the definition of war cry with Merriam-Webster definition or dictionary, it says a war cry is, of course, a cry used by a body of fighters in war. But then it goes on to say a slogan used especially to rally people to a cause. So when we start tying all of this together, or what a tumult is, or Hamai, a war cry, a slogan, something to trigger responses, then we can transition to the term of identity extremists. That term that was coined a little more than a year of now being referred to the Hebrew Israelites as being identity extremists. So when we start pulling this all into where we are now, you can see how the media has systematically began to create a narrative for those that are awakening to who they are. Like, we are awakening to who we are, rather, and starting to really understand the truth about history. Now you're starting to see how media is being used to paint a narrative of Hebrew Israelites as being a bunch of extremists per se. So I just wanted to kind of lay the foundation with that that scripture, and to understand the narrative that's being put out there about identity extremists. And so one of the links that I sent to you that I want to make a quick reference to is coming from NBC News. Also have another link from New York Times, but pretty much they're saying the same thing about our commander-in-chief, right? The president of the United States, President Trump. He said in this article, President Donald Trump referred to Haiti and African nations as a blank hole. I don't want to curse or whatever, but S-holes or whatever. He referred to Haiti. He referred to African nations as the S-bomb word, countries. And during a meeting with a bipartisan group of senators at the White House, a demographic aid briefed on Thursday. So that happened literally a year ago. And the New York Times confirmed this same, him making this statement of referring to Haiti, referring to Africa as being the S-bomb, the H-hole, the S-hole or whatever of a country, and dealing with immigration. So when we see that hat, and when we see that slogan of "Let's make America great again," look at some of the things that is being attacked according to this system, according to his system of how, or his ideology of what made America great. All the way from when you start looking at history of the American history, all the way to the currency at that time of slavery, where you had $100 bill that had our ancestors working in the slave field. You could go right down a list of a lot of these different things, but that narrative of "Let's make America great again," and we could tie into some of the things that we've seen this president do to target a particular demographics of people, which is our people. So I want to just kind of highlight that right there. And if you have the article, you could share it with the others that are watching. But then now we transition over to the actual incident, the article that I believe I forwarded you this one right here. This is coming from a guy by the name of Sam Kestenbaum, right? Sam Kestenbaum, right? He wrote an article afterwards, right, of pointing the blame, right, pretty much pointing the fingers over at the Hebrew Israelites. His article with the Washington Post that says, "Who are the Black Israelites at the center of the viral standoff at the Lincoln Memorial?" And then you start seeing
and real fast, and right there, that's a lie. And if you go check, there's actually another article out there where in the title they called them Muslim extremists. But it's funny because, and that was in the title, but later in the article, it referred to them as Hebrew Israelites. So it's like they have absolutely, you see a definite agenda going on there.
And think about what you just said, Michael. Think about how the reputation of the Nation of Islam back in the 50s and the 60s, right? So they want to bring the two together from the perspective of the approach, how they labeled the Nation of Islam as being extremists. They labeled the Black Panthers as being extremists, and what they want to do is put it in the same narrative of hate groups such as the KKK. So that's why I get kind of offended when I hear that term extreme or Black extremists or identity extremists being associated with us and trying to put us in the same sentence with, for example, the KKK or the skinheads and those that have murdered and lynched our people for decades upon decades, centuries upon centuries, and still lynching our people. And that's what we see happening here is trying to paint that narrative that the Black Hebrew Israelites, like they use that term, Israelites or Black identity extremists, are basically in the same category of these extreme groups that are murdering people, that are have killed people and things along that line.
Yeah.
So, with Mike just saying it and what you just said, I can see how they, you know, they used a lot of wordplay, like putting, you know, what was it, Muslim or Islam in the same, and then later on putting Black Hebrew Israelites. Like they wanted to give you that view in your mind to
Exactly.
say, look, people are just as extreme as them. So that's why they worded it like that.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
And if you take it a step forward on further, right? And I think I put it on I did put it on a video. I'm gonna see if I can pull the link up here on my computer. If not, I mean, that way I could forward it to you, you guys, the link. When you understand the talking points that is being used against the Hebrew Israelites, right? You'll understand a guy by the name of Hank Anserman, right? He has a supposedly a Bible media or platform to be able to answer questions about the Bible and things along that line. But he also have a narrative that they push, talking points that they push about the Hebrew Israelites. And so when you go there, you'll see the same narrative, how they're comparing the Hebrew Israelites to the Muslims. And you'll see even Craig Lewis did the same thing.
Yeah.
But in the article, let me see if I could find it here. I got it right here, and I'll post it here to you. You'll see a media outlet called The Forward. They did the same thing, which is a Jewish publication, right? But the talking points stem from a media outlet called, what is it? The Jewish Magazine. And the guy name is Jerry Kingler, right? What is it? Yeah, Kinger rather. And all the talking points that you see stems from this guy. And he actually compliments the Muslims versus the Hebrew Israelites. He even started making a comparison between the two, just like you're starting to see right now in the talking points. They'll say, hey, well, at least the Nation of Islam did this, but the Hebrew Israelites, they're doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're putting one against the other, but those are talking points that started with a guy by the name of Jerry Klinger, actually. The Jewish Magazine, April 2013 is when he came out with this article, and you'll start seeing how
if
all
you have
of
the article, go ahead and send it to me. I'll pull it up here so the people watching can see it. And
I'm getting ready to
real
send it to you right now.
on what Kelly's saying, what he's saying they're doing is actually a psychological technique called association. So if they say one name, you know, and keep saying it, mention it at the same time as something else, you're going to naturally associate it with Islam and then with terrorism or something. When the reality is you can't find any Hebrew Israelites touching anybody.
Right.
And that's, you hit it right on the nail. And what that is doing is, like you pointed out, they're using the media to justify, you know, their narrative. And unfortunately, many of us are falling right into that.
Yeah.
We're falling right into that. What was that? What's his name? The politician, Rowe, I think his name is Rowe, Karl Rowe, who had, who he was the public, the PR for George Bush, the senior. He said, even though he didn't come up with the term, but he said, hey, you keep saying the same lie over and over, that people will begin to believe that it's the truth.
Right.
And that's what we see playing out right now. Because now I'm seeing brothers and sisters starting to pull away from even referring to themselves as Hebrew Israelites.
Right.
Because of the narrative that we see going out there.
And real fast, for those of y'all watching, just to show you, because we need to get into the video more, but what I want to show you is this is what the news won't show you. They show you where, because we're going to get into more into about this video, but I wanted to show y'all this is they didn't show you the fact that they were talking peacefully out there, especially towards the end of this whole thing. The Hebrew Israelites and some of these Catholic people were out there peacefully talking, getting understanding on each other's beliefs. So listen, check this out.
Adam, you know what happened with the prophet Elijah? When the children mocked him for being bald-headed? What did the prophet Elijah do? You know what he did? He called a couple she-bears on him. He prayed to God and called she-bear, and them she-bears destroyed them children from limb to limb.
What was it, 42?
So you got to understand, these things that we're talking about, we're speaking with authority. We don't have a microphone. So we got to speak not just for you to hear us, but for everybody to hear us. So when you say it's getting heated, no, we're just speaking so everyone can hear us, even the people over there. Right, ain't no heated. You didn't see the people behind us? That was heated.
Yeah, I ain't say nothing about
Why
that.
you ain't say nothing about Make America Great Again? There was like 1,000 of them on the steps. You see, and they had one black guy that they pulled up there. They said, listen, we got a black friend. Look, we're not racist. They pulled one. That's the token. You understand? Yeah. So there's nothing heated out here. We just speak with the authority and the permission of God. So understand what we're speaking is not racism.
Yeah, I know.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
I feel a little
Read
bit
the rest
sad
of that.
You're not a child molester.
Right, but you might not be a child molester, but you probably be a victim if you become an usher boy. You understand?
I've been
And
an usher boy for 6 years, and I've never had to.
okay,
deal with that all
you know how.
But if you listen to the video towards the end and a lot of it, it's peaceful dialogue, conversation, folks getting understanding of each other's beliefs and everything like that. You know, did you have anything to say on that, Kelly? I don't know if you could hear it when I was playing it.
Yeah, I saw the video, though I didn't really hear it, but yeah, I saw the video, and that's the part that they're not going to share with you. And this is what we see the narrative when we start listening to how the media, the news, they're playing this thing out. Is that this young student, right? They keep using the term boy. If you notice, they're calling him a boy, so that way you can really paint the picture like, hey, he may be 10, you know, because when we think of boy, we think of kids, but they're painting this narrative as if these students were being bullied and being picked on, and you know, so now to justify his actions, this narrative of, hey, I would not have had to behave this way had it not been for those guys over there. You know, if it wasn't for those guys over there, I would not have stood face to face with an elder smirking in his face, you know, and that's the narrative that is being pushed right there. And that's the thing that you won't see. Only thing you're going to see is, of course, the abrasiveness as far as the angle that those brothers are taking with how they, you know, communicate. But they're just going to show that portion of it. But they're not going to show what you just highlighted. That's not the part that they're going to show. They're not going to show how the kids were mocking, standing over to the side. You know, it wasn't just one.
And yeah, and real fast, if you watch, and I'm gonna hand it back over to Kelly, but I'm gonna hand it over to them, and I'm gonna pull this video up. But they interviewed the brother who was out there talking, and he said when all them kids came up with them "Make America Great" hats, they were saying stuff too. One of them said, build the wall, build the wall. Another one said, nigga, this, that, and the other. And Kelly's going to bring out some stuff about that school that they're from. Okay?
Did you get the video? I inboxed you. They interviewed the brother. Or did you already have it?
I'll check it now. I'm going to hand it over to y'all, and I'll get it pulled up while y'all are talking.
Okay.
Okay. You go. You want to jump in there? You want to interject?
Not yet. Go ahead. You on the road. So go ahead.
Okay. What I want to do is, because many are pointing out these news outlets are quick to try to give historical incorrect information about the Hebrew Israelites, but they will not tell you about this school, that these group of high school students come from, that's wearing a "Make America Great Again." And so I forwarded Ak Israel, and I forwarded Ugo as well, these articles that I want to highlight here, so that way you guys can really understand that it's more to the story than what you see on the surface. So let me highlight a couple of news articles real quick, and Ugo, and I'll turn it over to you if you want to interject as I highlight it. Okay, so This is coming from the People magazine. And the article is titled, "The Truth About Resurfaced Photo of Catholic Students Wearing Blackface Paint Amid Native American Controversy." In other words, they're telling you that there's a history with this school wearing blackface. All right. And we already know what blackface is, but how come this is not coming out when we see the news pointing these things out? Right. So this is what it says. This is a couple of quotes from it. It says, amid dueling accounts of a viral run-in between a group of Catholic students wearing pro-Trump apparel and Native American activists in Washington, D.C. last week, the boys' school has drawn greater scrutiny. A gay high school student, a high school valedictorian in the same diocese, told NBC News on Tuesday that Covington Catholic High School was notorious for being a not well-disciplined school. It goes on to say it was only a matter of time that something this school community did will blow up to this degree. So now they're saying that it's just only a matter of time.
Wow.
It's going to happen because of the history that's going on in the school. It's a matter of time that something is going to blow up. And guess what? It's no coincidence that we see this in this article, and now we're seeing what actually happened, transpired not even a week ago.
Wow. And
it goes on to say, again, it says, it was only a matter of time that something the school community did will blow up to this degree. And I think they needed to be held accountable, said Christian Bales, who attended. He goes on to say this, in short, yes, Covington students did wear black paint. And listen to how they try to justify, try to shift it and try to justify them wearing black paint, call it black paint versus black face. But it says, in short, yes, Covington students did wear black paint on their bodies at sporting events. You see how they're saying on their bodies. They're not giving the full picture of exactly how they were wearing it. And you'll see in that article, Ak Israel and Ak Hugo, you'll see them actually having blackface on, taunting a black student, a black basketball player who's on the sidelines about to inbound the ball. But nevertheless, it says a blackout for all supporters, one of the schools. All right. And another article I want to highlight real quick is Snoops.com. They fact checked this, to give clarity, like, hey, let's validate whether or not this is fact or if it's lies. And they fact checked this and said that it is true that they have a history of wearing blackface, not just painting their bodies black, but having blackface. Now, this is coming from the article. Here's a couple of bullets from there. It says at least 3 reasons suggested in this photo, and it's inside the article, was an authentic image. First, the official YouTube page of Covington Catholic posted a now deleted video. They deleted the video, right? Because of in the middle of the controversy and how people start finding out about them. They deleted the video of them literally taunting a high school student of the opposing team on the sideline. But it says here, video on the 24th.
Kelly, hold on. Your mic went. Let me get his mic back up. He muted himself.
A call
you muted yourself, Kelly.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you again. Just start over.
Okay. Yeah. In this article, again, I'll read it again. It says again, at least 3 reasons suggest that this photograph of an authentic image, and in that image you'll see Ak, if you want to post it, you can. It says, first, the official YouTube page of Covington Catholic posted a now deleted video on the 24th of January, 2018, a year ago, basically.
Yeah, we got it
titled,
right here. I'm getting ready to pull up the video.
More
right
controversy
now.
In the wake of
exactly, and it's titled Colonel Crazy's compilation video, and a reference to the nickname given to that school cheering section, which shows numerous of students covered in black paint present at several back.
All right, hey, your mic muted again.
the photograph based on the distribution of painted players from 2012. The video, it says when the video was allegedly taken. But you see right through here, even in this article, it goes on to say more bullets from here. It says second photo appeared to originate with a message board for Kentucky Prep School titled bluegrasspreps.com, where it was posted on December 7th, 2015, well before the controversy over the January 2019 viral video. And it says the same thing there. But what's interesting here, it goes on to say here, it said, based on comments in the Bluegrass Prep message board, the intent of the black body paint was not racial.
Here's a photo right here, y'all. Hold on, I'm pulling it up right now. All right, that's the best. But you see them? Here, you see them right there?
Mm-hmm.
See? Yep, another guy. So they all right, go ahead. Go ahead, Cal.
And so they were trying to, like this bluegrassprep.com message board, they was trying to say, hey, the black body paint is not racial, and that it's related to blackout games. This is why they paint themselves black. But it goes further in this article. It says, that being said, at least one person in the thread posted a connection to racism or racist minstrel shows from the 19th century that used blackface on white actors to depict African Americans unfavorably. That guy on the right looks like he might have been researching minstrels before the game, one post read. So they're telling you that even in their internal discussions, they agree that, wait a minute, no, that stuff they're not just painting their bodies, and the origin of them doing this is what? Blackface, to make a mockery. And it's no coincidence that you see that video or that image that you displaying of these guys doing that to that brother, right? That's on that young high school student basketball player. Last point I want to make too is coming from the New York Times. All right, it's an article titled "After Viral Video, Families of Covington Boys, Covingtons are swiftly circling to protect their boys." Right? Notice they still using that term "boys."
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now here's a couple of bullets from it. It says more videos later emerged, complicating the story, showing that the encounter had been preceded by African American protesters who identified themselves as Hebrew Israelites, shouting slurs at the student. When a man with the Hebrew Israelites shouted that the boys had just one N-word in their crowd, a student corrected him, saying, "We got two of them." Notice what they said. They said the Hebrew Israelite, they said that the Hebrew Israelites shouted that, hey, those boys, those college students have one N-word in the crowd, but the students corrected them and said, "We got two N-words in the crowd." Right? We got two of them on, So it goes on to say, a video on the school's YouTube channel also depicted some students with their faces and bodies painted black. After the video emerged on social media and the New York Times contacted the diocese for comments, the school's video was removed from YouTube. So they removed it from YouTube. Last article I want to highlight, and I'll turn it over to you guys to inject your thoughts on this. This is coming from theroot.com. And I believe did I forward that article to you?
No.
I'm gonna forward it to you right now.
Okay.
All right. Let me forward it to you right now. Do you have it, Hugo?
I think I was trying to get into my box and then freezing up on us.
All right, let me get it over to you right now, because it's some good stuff here for the people to see for themselves. And this is why, like you guys pointed out, we cannot allow the media to get us to the point that we start becoming ashamed of our own brothers, that we'll leave them hung and dry. And don't get me wrong, I don't agree with the approach of cursing and all that other stuff. But guess what? At the end of the day, I have relatives in my family that I don't agree with, but I'm not going to leave them hung and dry. I'm not going to just let anyone come and attack them. And we have to take that same approach with our brothers and sisters, even though we may not agree with some of their approach, but we're not going to let anyone just come up and just start beating up on them, knowing that, wait a minute, we're family. I'm not just going to let that happen.
Right.
You know, so, you know, I'm going to defend my brothers and sisters regardless and just deal with whatever we have to deal with internally. But nevertheless.
And one of the things what's funny is you ask the people, well, this, you knew this was it was a Indian, you know, they were doing their thing there that day. And I want to say I heard that they had taken out, the Catholic school or whatever had taken out a, you know, whatever you want to call it, got a permit to come out there also. So the question is, well, why would you want to do that? Like, what was the, you know, agenda behind them even coming out on that? And then on top of that, wearing Make America Great hats. And they would argue that, oh, we have the right to do that. And then I would argue that, hey, well, then he had a right to say what he wanted to you. Even, you know, so anyway.
And I'm totally in agreement with that, because when we start talking about freedom of speech, because I remember going to visit family down in Augusta, Georgia, where the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, were having marches through right downtown of Augusta, Georgia. And guess what? No one could do anything. Why? Because that was what? Freedom of speech. Whether you like whether you like their messaging or dislike their messaging, that's what free of speech is. You know, whether you like someone's dialogue, everyone has an entitled to express themselves, whether you like their messaging or not. And this is what, if they want to talk about let's make America great again. Guess what? Isn't that one of the pillars of freedom of speech that's supposed to be, you know, the thing that really highlights this country versus other countries? That if you articulate yourself, whether people like it or not, you don't have to be worried. You don't have to worry about being thrown into prison or killed because you're speaking, or you're having, you know, protests or whatever the case may be, based upon a belief that you have that you want to express. So it's definitely a very contradictory of what's being pushed out right now in regards to our brothers, the Hebrew Israelites, our brothers and sisters, because we're being ridiculed from every angle.
Right.
So yeah, but go ahead, Hugo.
Oh, I have much to say. I was just thinking, you know, a school that has a history of racism coming out there wearing America, let's make America great again hats on.
That's a bad look.
Yeah, you know, like, yeah, what was you doing out there? I mean, what was your real cause for being out there? You know, and then they, you know, they not playing, you know, they not giving us the whole story. You know, it's crazy.
And then another thing.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, on the one of I think it was a guy on CNN. I saw it while I was getting prepared for this show, where one of the CNN anchors, he had to, you know, backtrack and some of the other people had to backtrack because they were off on how they reported this whole thing. You know.
That's another thing, Richardson Kelly, bro. You said last night, you mentioned that the guy that was interviewing, he was Jewish, right?
Exactly. Well, that's what's interesting. Like the guy that really pushed the narrative over to the Hebrew Israelites, mm-hmm. right? The Forward is a Jewish publication, and he is an editor on the Forward, right? He's from that community, and listen to how the narrative changed, you know, to protect these students. And that's how, you know, the talking points that he used comes from that platform, as well as the other references that I made earlier. So that actual reporter from Washington Post, he is an editor at the Forward magazine, which is the Jewish online publication.
Wow.
You know, so let's highlight this article here, and you guys can interject with this. The roots, right? Did you get that, Ak Israel?
I got it. It's up on the screen now.
Okay, so this is what it says here. I'm just going to read some of the bullets here. I'm not going to read the whole article. It says here, no matter how many times we go through it, it's always a wonder to witness a spin job in real time. You hear what they say here.
Yep.
They said, wait a minute. No matter how many times we go through the situations like this, it's always a spin job that's going to take place.
That's scary.
And it's, you see what I'm saying? And it says, and make no mistake, this latest series of media appearances by the Covington Catholic High School students who went viral last week after their confrontation with Native American elder and veteran is exactly that. So they let it be known that it is a spin job, right? And it goes on to say, there's a gaggle of white Catholic students, right, school students, gleefully mocking a Native American elder. There's the Hebrew Israelites in Washington, D.C. Being Hebrew Israelites in Washington, D.C., there's a staunch defense of innocent white races from the commander-in-chief and what seems to be a pending white, when it says, white is dealing with white race or, the White House and things along that line. I didn't put the full bullet there, but then it goes on to say, bereft on any visible emotion, Sandman told Guthrie. Now, this is dealing with an interview. Sandman is the young student, the high school student. Guthrie is from the Today Show, today's morning show, and she's interviewing him, right? So Sandman told Guthrie that he had every right to stand in front of Phillips and that he didn't walk away from the Native American man who walked over and began chanting in an attempt to calm down tensions between the massive group of students and a handful of Hebrew Israelites. Listen to the words here. It said massive groups of students and a handful of Hebrew Israelites. We're going to see some, a history of this pattern right here that we could talk about. It goes on to say, because he didn't want to be disrespectful and because he was acting out of respect, you notice what he's saying? He stared and he smirked at this elder because he didn't want to be disrespectful. He was doing that out of respect. Sandman felt that neither he nor the dozens of classmates gleefully mocking Phillips and doing tomahawk chops at him owed Phillips an apology. This article goes on to say, notably, Sandman also attempted to place blame for his peers' racist taunting of a Native American man on the Hebrew Israelites who were at the Lincoln Memorial, a group of 4 or 5 black men who were throwing insults at passerbys because, and this is what they said because, well, have you ever walked by a Hebrew Israelite? It's kind of their thing. And what they're saying is, far as the approach, it's already known that, guess what, far as using, curse words and things along that, that's just a dialogue, that's just part of the dialogue. But they're saying, have you ever heard, them with our brothers and sisters witnessing out on these streets? He's saying, well, it's not something that's going to surprise you. That's basically what they're saying. But they said also in this article, what do you normally do? They say, hey, you just ignore it and keep it moving. But he's saying, why did these group of students feel the need to stop there? That's what this article is saying. It's like, hey, they may say something that's offensive, but you don't have to stop and listen to them. Just keep it moving. All right. But it says here, Sandman also confirmed that he felt threatened. There we go there. That word threatened. Sandman also confirmed that he felt threatened by the handful of men, despite the fact that he and his classmates vastly outnumbered them. When Guthrie pressed him on this in that interview, and you can see the video, and you can Google, go to YouTube, right, and you just Google Today Show interview with Sandman or the Catholic student, you'll see this there. It says, when Guthrie pressed him on this, Sandman replied, there were a group of adults and I wasn't sure what was going to happen next. You see what's happening here? There's a group of adults, these 4 adults. I didn't know what was going to happen. Doesn't that sound similar to what happened to our brothers and sisters that have been gunned down in the streets by the police officers? I didn't know what was going to happen. I felt threatened. He tried to reach for my gun. I didn't know it was a hostile situation. I didn't know the way that he moved or the way that he looked. I felt threatened of this unarmed black man or this unarmed black woman, or I felt threatened, even though it's 7 of us, 8 of us with guns, but I felt threatened by this unarmed black man.
Right.
And just earlier, they said they painted themselves as innocent white racists, right?
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They paint this picture like they're innocent, but then it goes on this article. It says, a veiled insinuation that a black man or a small group of them somehow posed a real threat of violence, even in the absence of any evidence to support the claim. They're saying that, wait a minute, even though the Hebrew Israelites were abrasive in their approach, right, in their dialogue, but it's saying that they pose no threat of violence. But they're saying even in the absence of this evidence, there's no evidence to substantiate these guys feeling threatened, but yet he's saying that he felt threatened.
And see, and that goes right back, and the brother actually brought because when that crowd of people, if you watch the video, when that crowd of people walked up, they were throwing their little insults out there too. Okay, but
exactly.
Yeah, and if you listening on the video, you can hear him, and he came right back at him. And this goes right to the point you're making about who to be scared of, who the real terrorists are, who we need a wall against. He threw it right back at him. He said, y'all dangerous. Y'all shoot schools up. Y'all go to Vegas and kill everybody because because it's a cloudy day. And then when he said that, the whole crowd just dispersed after that. It was like, boy, he cut him with the truth. But it doesn't. One of my big points is it don't, because a lot of people are like, oh, they stand on the corner and they yell, ooh, like how scary is that? It's like I have sat down and talked with a person about this calm and patiently and slow, and they flipped out. I've had it happen to me before. I didn't say anything aggressively. I was just saying, literally speaking what the book says, and watch them melt down to the point where I felt threatened. So it don't matter what tone you say this truth in. They don't like it.
That's right.
They hate to hear their history. I mean, when you start, they be like, we should be scared of you. When you start to tell them their history of us, being hanged, burned alive, kids fed to alligators, operated on. I mean, all the way up to the day where we being gunned down in the street and still being hanged. I mean, it's a number of things that's happening to us, but they should be scared of us. We shouldn't be scared of them.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Given,
and when
exactly.
we bring that out, they always get upset.
Given their history, we should be the most fearful, scared ones. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that goes to another thing. It's like if I sat there and told, if I sat here right now and read off the history of them as a nation, because that's the other thing. They're like, oh, you calling people devils. But when you read their history, the only conclusion you can arrive at is that they're devils. I mean, and meaning deceiver, not meaning, and I'm not, let me clarify. And he clarified this in his interview with the Post. He said, just because somebody has white skin does not mean they're a devil or Edomite. The brother, the guy who's out there, the brother who's out there teaching, he said in his family, he got blonde hair, blue-eyed Puerto Ricans in his family. But he goes into all that. But there's what I found out here is in the Hebrew Israelite community, and it happens in the Hebrew Israelite community, but of course in the rest of the world with the heathens, all these other nations, it's prevalent, is a lack of proper judgment. People and Christ said that's a weighty matter, is giving unbiased judgment. And even in the Hebrew Israelite community, they quick to throw someone under the bus because they'll group a whole group of people together oh yeah, they wicked, this, that, and the other because they did this, but they don't really look at the situation in detail. You know what I'm saying?
And you know, I wanted to add to that too, because you go and you also Ak has made a great point about, okay, we see them making the history of the Black Hebrew Israelites, but what about the history of this school? Right now, if we want to take it beyond the history of the school to the belief system of the history of this school, then we can start seeing who's actually the extremists. Because when, you guys could correct me if I'm wrong about history, and anyone that think I'm wrong, hey, you know, feel free, let me know if I'm wrong. But let's start with the history of the Catholic Church. Let's just, we don't even have to go all the way back to the 2nd century, but let's start with the 10th century, and let's fast forward from the 10th century to now, right? You have what is called the fleur-de-lis, right? The fleur-de-lis. That is that symbol that the New Orleans Saints have on their helmets, right? Notice the name, New Orleans Saints, right? But that fleur-de-lis, right, comes from the Babylonian practices, the Egyptian practices, which is called the lotus. It's called the lily. But what they did was they took this symbol, right, and now they made it a symbol for what? The Trinity, right? This is tying this into the Trinity. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's why you see the 3 petals on this flower and that symbol. What do they do? Now they're supposed to be upholding the Bible, right? But now they're using this fleur-de-lis, this symbol, to what? Brandon put a mark on a people, stamping a people, right? This is a symbol that they made their symbol back in the 11th century. Now, when we transition from the 11th century to the 14th century, it was the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope by the name of Nicholas, go figure, right? Nicholas, Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, is Nicholas, right? Who made the declaration of saying what? Now we're going to go ahead and make an ecclesiastical declaration on slavery, using the Bible as justification to what? Call out all out what? War, or all out what? Kidnapping, or all out what? Contract on a specific demographic of people, in Africa, our people, and branded them with this fleur-de-lis during the first leg of the transatlantic slave trade. But we don't have to stop right there, because we see that image all over the place. We see it in the artwork. We see it in old churches. You see that image of the fleur-de-lis. Now, when we take it over to New Orleans, right, now we can start dealing with the Le Code Noir, which is the Black Code, right? In the Black Code, it tells you that we have to what? According to these articles, this law, that we have to what? Honor the first day, not the Shabbat, the first day as our day of worship, and all the holidays that's been associated with it. It goes on to say that if any of one of our ancestors tried to run or was unruly, right, then you get to what? Punish them with what? The fleur-de-lis. You get to cut their hamstring. You get to castrate them with this object, cut their ears off. But guess what? What do they call themselves? New Orleans Saints, right? And what is this part of? The Roman Catholic Church. Matter of fact, from Catholicism, period. I'm not just going to say Roman Catholic. It's Catholic, period.
And that's the thing. They are so quick. They don't like Ugo said. They don't want to know about their history because it's so bloody and wicked, and some of the worst atrocities ever committed against humankind. And they don't want to hear about that. They just want to say you were hurtful to us. You spoke to us mean. No, that brother mad because of what y'all did to him. The reason those brews went down there is to wake the Indians up and to support the Native American Indians for what? That's the wickedness that church did. I know Kelly could bring out some history on what the Catholic Church did to the Indians.
And they like to also justify killing us by reflecting, like when we start to bring certain things out about them and their history, they reflect back to what's going on in our community as far as our people, killing each other, the crimes against our own people. And then they say, well, see, that's why you violent and we're scared of you. But I'm like, hey, look, like it's nothing that we can do to you as a nation. We don't have that type of power here. We don't have no military might. We don't have no tanks. We don't have none of these powerful new armor machine guns that they're making. To kill our people with. We don't have the missiles, the planes, the nuclear weaponry, none of these things to go to war with them, and suggesting that they should be scared of us as a people.
And then to build on top of what you just said, that they in there talking about, oh, y'all doing black on black crime. Go to World War II. That's the biggest white on white crime known to man right there. Y'all.
There you go.
And one of the things is because most of us don't know statistics. Statistics is manipulative. You learned that in my statistics class, that every statistics can be manipulated, right? This is to validate a point. But when they say that, hey, you know what, it's 90% of crime in the black community is black on black crime, guess what? It's 90% in the white community is white on white crime. It's the same numbers. Because guess what? Most criminals are not trying to go to the other side of town to do crime. They're doing it within the convenience of their community. Every community, the bulk of their crime is within their community. Right. So those numbers, right, even those numbers are false. Yeah. Even the term that President Reagan came up with, calling our sisters welfare queens. Well, who is the biggest recipients of welfare? It's not our community, but because of what? Media paints this picture that it's our community that are leeches or moochers, that are lazy, that are uneducated, trying to buck the system. But they won't tell you in the 50s, we were the most educated household in this country. We had the highest income earning in this country. And that's why the government made a video for all these businesses like Woolworth and, Bambergers and all those stores back then to say, hey, how to sell to a Negro. Guess what? That's an untapped resource. Stop having so much hate to the point that you don't want to make money off of them. Don't let your hate carry over to making money off of them.
Right.
I'm glad you brought that out too, because up until the 50s and 60s, we never had those type of problems in our community. Now, so when they talking about we killing each other and things like that, hey, look, that was going on in their communities with their people, their nations, with them fighting each other, before we started to kill ourselves. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
We didn't have that type of trouble. We didn't come over here with that type of mindset. This didn't happen until up until that era, the 50s and the 60s, and then it progressed as we got integrated into their system. It got worse.
And then, I mean, you can look at the COINTELPRO documents and the declassified documents they got now that it was by design. They planned all this out. Crafty counsel.
Exactly. So this is why it doesn't surprise us, and we should not be surprised. Many people say, hey, fake news, or all kinds of stuff that they want to classify. No, this is real news, but it's been modified by the media. Who owns the media? I did a presentation on this a couple of years back, identifying all the major players who own the media. We don't own any media outlets. The closest to a media outlet someone from our community owns is Oprah Winfrey. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the closest to a media network that we own. But what do we actually own? We don't own any newspapers. Facebook is owned by who? Mark Zuckerberg. Look at all of like Instagram and all of these different major outlets. Who is it owned by? What community? It is not owned by us. So they can manipulate these stories. They know that they can. We don't own any radio stations. We don't even own any distribution companies. Who owns the distribution companies? They do. Now, they may give you a distribution deal, but they still own the distribution.
Right. That's good. That's right. Kelly, you tell me about, you sent me this other article you might have covered already, but it has from April 2013, the Black Hebrew Israelites in Kansas.
Let's see here. Like
I
Hebrew
guess
Israelite.
it might have been what you were reading earlier, Rabbi
Oh yeah, that's
Wentworth.
what that is. Yeah, that's what I was saying about how the basis of those arguments come from. It comes from a guy by the name of Jerry Klinger. He actually wrote that article about Black Hebrew Israelites and Kansas, and it's coming from the Jewish magazine, April 2013.
Okay.
So all the talking points that we see that the answer man and the what you call it, the Christian apologetics, apologists or whatever, apologetics, they're getting all their talking points from these guys. And when you see who's at the top of the pyramid, you'll see it's not any of us. It's coming out of the same people that owns the media. This guy, this guy Jerry Klinger, he pretty much owns the Jewish magazine, and this is where all these talking points coming from. This is when you read that article, you're going to say, "Wow, this sounds like every time I hear, let's just say, some of these Christian apologists, they saying the same things. They running right in sync with this right here,
right?
And this is where the root of these arguments or talking points that they're using comes from them, all the way from, like I pointed out, the Muslims, comparing the Muslims to the Hebrew Israelites, and he actually gave them, the Muslims, more of a compliment versus the Hebrew Israelites.
Yeah.
And I would say he probably did that because with the with the Muslims, that was a movement, but this is an awakening to who we are as a people, and that scares them.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's more of a threat to them behind closed doors, not us as a people, but the fact that we're waking up, and coming back. The Most High is going to bring us back, to power, restore us as a nation, a righteous nation.
And to add to that, Hugo, I'm gonna see if I could pull it up on Fox News. A Hebrew Israelite was on Fox News.
Yeah, we got that. I got that up here now. That?
Yeah, that'd be a great interview to play to the people, because one thing I respect about that brother, he did not allow himself to be pulled into that discussion of trying to throw hate out there.
He was very wise. His name is Katriel Ben Yusuf. And if any of y'all watching know him, man, get me in contact with that. I'd love to bring him on the Spiritual Combat Show. If any of y'all know that brother, we'll play part of the video, because Fox News, man, they tricky, man. They snakes on there. And this brother was on point. And like I said, if any of y'all know this, man, definitely put him in contact with me. I'd love to have him on the show. I'll play part of it right now.
But I did my best. Now, you heard the sound coming from people in your organization yelling at these high school students. Do you think that was appropriate?
Well, first of all, that organization that you speak of is not representative of the whole nation of Israel. We're descendants by seed, by heritage of this people called Israel.
So you condemn these people that were hurling that kind of hateful language at the students?
Well, I don't know if it's quite hateful.
It wasn't quite hateful. Crackers, incest babies, child molesters. What do you consider that, love?
Well, they have a way and style that they bring their message to the people.
And real fast, because I got to interrupt on that. But real fast, the stuff they were saying wasn't not facts. I mean, were they out there saying lies? Is that Catholic Church not caught up in a molestation ring? It's like,
exactly.
But they call truth is a new hate today.
Yeah.
Truth is the new hate. And especially they're gonna, when you're telling, anytime you bring up the history of slavery and all this stuff that they've done to us, oh, what are you, racist? Why are you speaking hate? I'm speaking truth, just because it hurts your feelings. So this brother was so on point, man.
It was on point.
I'm gonna play a little bit more, and then I'll let Kelly and Ugo, speak on it.
What's that message though? That's a hateful message.
That's their style.
That's their style, and it's pretty hateful. Come on, you're a
I'm
smart
not hateful.
man.
I'm an Israelite, but I'm not hateful.
Okay, well, that was pretty hateful. I think you would agree that was hateful language?
There's a lot of hate in America that's not really initiated by what you want to say Israelite groups like that.
But you wouldn't agree with me that that was hateful language directed at the Covington boys by this black Israelite
I don't know what
group?
initiate that. What did the conversation bring forth?
Okay, listen, I haven't seen all of the video. I've just seen what was said to the Covington boys. We didn't see anything coming from the other side directed at the black Israelites.
It's basically slanted.
Hey, one of y'all got to mute. Your phone is picking it up.
Don't know why they responded in the way they did. You just giving me one side of the story, so.
Okay. Is it okay to...
So yeah, man, that dude was Kelly. I'll let you start on that, man. That dude was so on point.
And I loved how he did not allow the commentary or the anchorman rather to bait him in. Especially with that comment about trying to force him to say that those Hebrew Israelite brothers that was out there are extremists. They are a hate group. And he did not take the bait. Because
they're not a hate group, they're a truth group. But
exactly. And what really stood out too is when he told him, he said, hey, Hebrew Israelite is not an organization. It is a ethnicity. It's a nationality.
Right.
It is not a religion. It is people being awakened to who they are. And he stood his ground. I mean, I was proud to see that. I was glad that he did not allow himself to get baited in with what they were trying to bait him in to do, doing by saying, hey, denouncing his brothers and sisters. Again, I'm from the old school, the way that I was raised, like, hey, look, and out in the public, we may, my brother may do something crazy, or I may do something crazy to my brother or say something out of line. But guess what? You handle that inside the house. Y'all don't go out in public fighting each other. Right. Take that inside the house. Let we deal with it internally. And I just love how that brother just handled himself. He did not take the bait to trying to say, to throw his brothers up under the bus for the sake of trying to, appease the people that's in front of him.
Right.
Because as soon as he would have thrown them under the bus, I can guarantee you he would get other calls from churches and things like that, people that are opposing us right now to try to get him to speak on their conferences and things along that line. They would have used him as a tool, but he did not allow himself to take the bait, to throw his own brothers and sisters under the bus. And even though he may not agree with their approach, but he did not make it public that, hey, you know what, I'm going to throw them under the bus. That's them over there. Those the bad Negroes, and we're the good Hebrews. He didn't do that. And that's one thing we have to be careful of doing as a community, because we can repeat history, because that's what many of our ancestors were doing for those that were trying to fight against what was happening. Hey, look, boss, look, master, look, I'm good. I'm with you to the end, master. I'm with you, master. Look, that's those over there. That's good. That's those over there. They the ones trying to run away. They're the uncivilized. I'm civilized, master. I'm civilized.
Yeah.
That's what and see why? Because they painted that narrative of civilized, right? Being civilized is someone that is submissive to their system. Uncivilized, when you understand the Willie Lynch letter, is relating to those that bulking the system. Oh, wait a minute, you uncivilized because you bulking the system. So we got to tame that wild animal, so to speak, is how they view anyone that's going against their system. So you're uncivilized. And that's how when you start reading this literature going back to the 15th century, the 16th century, you start even getting an understanding of them knowing that the original Hebrews were melanated people, because they used the word uncivilized even with the language as they began to modify it. So those are the things that when you start listening to those nuggets right there, uncivilized. And so they want to have that Hebrew on Fox News to say, hey, here's a civilized Hebrew Israelite versus the uncivilized Hebrew Israelite.
Right.
And he did not take the bait.
And when in reality they hate all y'all.
Right.
Civilized
Exactly.
and uncivilized, you know.
Exactly. Go ahead,
He
you go.
switched it up. I don't know. I didn't hear the whole thing with when he was playing the video, but he switched it up on him at the end. And I used this talking point many times where he said, "Look, are all the are you a Ku Klux Klan member? You know, do you act in the way of the Ku Klux Klan because of Christianity?" That's what he told him at the end of this interview.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I like when he brought that out. You know,
Yeah.
he was like, you got many groups of Christians out here, but they all don't identify with the Ku Klux Klan. So you can't say that us as a people, as a nation, are all tied to one group. So that's what he was kind of saying at the end.
Yeah.
And that was what was powerful. I'm glad you pointed out, Hugo. And with anything in our families, we all got that family member, you know what I mean, that you better not allow him to have what they call the truth juice inside them, start spilling out all kinds of stuff. We all have people within our families that we don't agree with. They don't agree with us, we don't agree with them. But guess what? It doesn't mean that our entire family is a representation of those that don't agree, that may be a little more out there in terms of what they do, their actions and things along that line. So with the many of our Hebrew brothers and sisters that are out there, I don't agree with the approach. I don't agree with the cursing and all that. But guess what? But I understand the pain behind it.
Right.
Because no one can understand when you sitting here in school being told that your heritage basically starts in slavery, but you don't hear anything about who you really are. But all along, this Bible that you have a hate for, because you believing that this is the white man's per se doctrine, and you come to find out, wait a minute, that's my history book right there. Wait a minute, that's everything that I've been needing to really know. It's been sitting under my nose all of this time. Wait a minute, I'm Israel versus, hey, pushing that narrative that anyone outside of the Jews, as far as our Gentiles, wait a minute, this is me. So there's a level of hurt that comes behind it. That's why I like what you guys said, and I have a lot of understanding with the root to that hurt, because when I came to the understanding of who I am, I was upset. I was upset as a pastor, upset, but the difference is I knew how to temper my anger. You know what I mean? I knew how to channel my anger. And I was upset, man, reading like, wait a minute, my uncle wasn't crazy when he was telling us as kids, and he has a melanated Christ on a mural on his church since the 60s, saying that we are Israel. Wait a minute, you need to go down to Savannah, Georgia, and visit your uncle's church down there, and that way you can understand who you are. We thought he was crazy. And come to find out, wait a minute, he's been telling the truth the whole time. So it puts a lot of anger up under you. And I think all of us went through that mode. Right, but some of these guys, guess what? They didn't have or don't have someone to help them channel that anger, to where as though they can really use it from a perspective of, in a positive way. When I say in a positive way, to say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go harder. You know what, even though I know that it may be abrasive, but you know what, I'm gonna still go hard. But let me be more conscious about how I can impact the overall community. That's why I'm very conscientious about what I do online and publicly. Yeah. So, but again, I'm not going to throw them under the bus, because they still, no matter how people want to label them, they still my brother, and I'm not going to separate myself from them and say, hey, look, that's them over there.
Right.
No, they still my brother, because guess what? If I can have an atheist, one of our brothers that don't believe in Christ, living in this community, guess what? If somebody come in this community to do something to them, I'm going after to protect them.
Right.
But that's what religion has done to us, to make us say, hey, you know what? Look, only to our community, not their communities, only to our communities. Hey, if your brother don't believe in Christ, he's not your family. And they'll use Christ by saying, who is my brother? Who is my mother? No, wait a minute. No, that's not how it works. That's not even biblical how they try to explain it. So, but again, I'll turn it over to you guys. I don't want to sound like I'm going off into a tantrum here.
Yeah. But I just like I said, I make my as far as I make my line of division of the people I deal with and the people I don't deal with. I don't base it off of group or whatever assembly you're with. So I draw my line of division, people I'm gonna deal with based on character and morals. A low character person, I'm not dealing with them. And in all these groups, whatever group it is, you got people with high moral character and people with low moral character, and I've seen it firsthand. And I can say with them brothers there, they were real supportive. They like I said, they came out to Ron Dalton's event. They really contributed to the event with just asking questions and participating. And I ain't gonna drop names, but there were some people that lived right in that area and didn't even come out or so much as even do anything to support Ron on his movie. And I mean, I ain't gonna go into it any further than that, but I will say, yeah, I have a lot of respect for those brothers. Now the pull-up gang, I've watched them for a while, so I kind of knew the way they were. So yeah, those are some good peoples, and I like the way everybody waited till everything came out. Even the brother who was involved with it, the main guy in there, he did an interview with the Post, a New York Post or whatever it is, and he was smart. They had the camera there going the whole time through the whole interview to make sure they didn't try to, edit it real dirty. And he made sure he justified every single move he did out there. So I'm gonna pull that up so y'all can see where to go and watch that interview on YouTube. I'll let y'all continue talking though while I do that.
One thing I know, Rich Skelly, I keep telling people there's no running from this. There's no running from your nationality as being a Hebrew Israelite. No matter which name we try to go up under, they're going to socialize us, with being bad. So, I mean, we got to understand that there's no running from this. I don't care what term you use. They're going to find us, they're going to hunt us down, and they're going to put us all in that one group to try to make us look like, dishonest people, evil people, you know what I'm saying? Giving themselves a way to attack us as a nation.
And you're absolutely correct, and that's the art of war.
Right.
When you really study war, that's the art of war. Cause division among the people. Plant a seed of discourse. I think about the Great Walls of China. This dynasty, or what do you call it? Not dynasty. This one of the seven wonders of the world. That you could see these walls from outer space. You could literally see these walls. Having chariot races on the top of these walls. But how was these walls penetrated? It was just, the Russians getting in the ear of the guards at the gate. You know what I mean? They couldn't penetrate the walls, but they were able to penetrate the ears of those that's supposed to be watchmen of this gate. And so that's what we have to be careful with the media. We have, like you guys pointed out, we have to be careful of being quick to judge, because I did see a few people judging within the community, these Hebrew brothers that was out there. Each one of us got different methods that others may have something to say about. But again, I don't think we should be public, especially when it comes to certain things like this, and embarrassing and throwing each other up under the bus, not making it personal too. Let's deal with doctrine, but don't make it personal to where you're attacking a person's character and you don't even know who the person is. So yeah.
It's a lot of doctrines out there, and I tell people this: we need to come together as a nation. We don't got to come together under the fact that we agree with each other doctrines, but come together as a nation of people And then once we take that step to come together as a nation, then we can handle every doctrine on the inside of the house while keep all these other nations out of our business. You know, because if we try to do it like we're doing it now, they're going to stay in our business and they're going to keep dividing us up as a people. So we got to come together and handle it in-house with one another.
Right.
And kick it out that way.
Well, real quick, you hit it on the nail. When you understand the Jewish community as we know it, most of them are atheists. Most of them don't even believe in the HaMashiach. But do you see them having public discord like we see in our community? They still have one voice. You know, you cannot go into their communities. I can't even think about going to their communities to run for president. I mean, run for city council or anything like that. Everything comes from within their community. You walk on Howard Beach up in New York, you get escorted out of Howard Beach, you know, because you're not from that community. But this is where we have to change how we process things and really understand what community is, understand what family is, understand that, hey, we're going to have problems, but let's start handling those disagreements internally and not give the opposition room to attack us with.
Right. Yeah. And the ultimate thing, and I tell people, man, me coming in the truth, one of the things is I didn't, you think these other nations, as a nation, I'm not talking about every white person or anything, but as a nation, these other nations don't care about you. Some of them don't like you at all. And they're playing team ball. They're about their team. They're about their nation. They're about their people. And, that's how all these other nations or races, that's how they function. We're the only ones who we don't get that, And this book it's a book of the best culture ever given to man, and we need to embrace it.
I seen something the other day. Now, you remember the fight that just happened with Adrian Boner and Manny Pacquiao?
Yeah.
Now, I made a couple of, comments about it, joking about the situation. But then one night after that, I was on YouTube looking at the video, and the Ruach started to speak to me. And he said, look at what is going on all over social media. When Manny Pacquiao lost the fight against Floyd Mayweather or other fighters he fought in the past, none of his own people scrutinized him. They all lift him up, and he came back strong. But when Adrian Boner lost, we all killed him. We discriminated him all across social media.
Yeah,
with all the other nations, we did that.
And Hugo, what's the name of the fighter, the heavyweight fight that just happened with Tyson Fury and what's his name?
I know you're talking about what's his name?
Wilder. Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, Wilder, Deontay Wilder. And he went through the very same thing like you just pointed out. What disappointed me is watching how a lot of the great boxers were speaking against him, saying, hey, he lost the fight and this and all these different things, and how they just really raked him under the rug. But here it is, he taking a stand for his heritage. And it kind of made me think about what you were just saying about how their community supported each other. But when it came to him, and I saw that fight, and I believe that Fury got that extra few seconds, an extra count, 3 counts in that call. But nevertheless, which to your point, why are we so busy trying to break him down as to what encouraging him, like you just pointed out? And why are we making a mockery of him versus saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to support him?
And the thing is, it's the brainwashing of this nation where, what are you being racist? Like, yeah, I'm supporting my race. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Well, and even when you look at that, you know what? How can you be a racist to a system that you didn't create? we didn't create the system of the institution of race.
That's good.
So how
Kelly.
can I be a racist? We didn't put this system in place. They put this in place, redefined our heritage, and now we would look at the color black, the term black, a descriptor, a grouping of what being our heritage. People fight for the color black versus fighting for their heritage or where they come from.
Right.
They don't even want to find out what nation they come from over in Africa. They just, hey, I'm a black man, I'm a black woman. Wait a minute. You just helping them with that institutional race.
Yeah.
So guess what? I don't care. So if someone want to call me a racist, that's right. I am a racist because I don't subscribe to the institutional race as a whole. Right. There's no white man, there's no black man, there's none of that. You know, you have the Europeans that comes from of a particular tribe, a particular nation, just like our people come from a particular tribe, a particular nation. Just because we all have the same skin complexion doesn't mean that we are part of the same nation, the same tribe. And that's what people don't want to grab hold of. That's the other point that I love how that brother did in that video when you had that guy. I guess the guy was coming up to him. He pulled out the Designer Bible Dictionary and showed him, hey, look, here's the difference between, someone that's a descendant of Ham and the Negro. And you can see how the brother in that video was like, he really changed his whole approach to them. You know, that's part of the video that they won't show you. You know, they won't show you how that brother, man, he was like, wow, he starts sharing some knowledge with them as well.
Right.
So, if they want to call me a racist, go ahead and call me a racist because I don't subscribe to the institutional race. I am a Hebrew Israelite, not by religion, but by blood. I've been born into this. You know what I mean? Right. I'm born into this, and I'm not going to let anybody tell me differently, and I'm not going to let anyone put labels on me that's part of this system that's continuously causing problems for our people.
Continuously. That's good, man.
We got to stand up and let them know that we are for our own people, but for our own people first, not meaning that we're against any other nation, but just lift ourselves up first, and then we can help some other people out. You see what I'm saying? So when they come at us with that word, racist, I'd be like, okay, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm for my own people first. And matter of fact, I go so far to tell them, I told them this before, like, look, I'm not against you being a racist as in meaning being for your own people first above me, because you're supposed to be for your own people. How would you put me above your people? Now let's switch that around, and look at me the same way. Okay, how would I put you above my own people, knowing that they need to be lifted up first, and then I'm going over here to help you out first, though.
Yeah, and you know where you go, you hitting it on it now. That's biblical. That's Genesis chapter 10. All the nations were divided with their own language, their own tongues, their own territory, their own people. That's not being a hatred. There's no hatred in that. We did better when we were segregated as a community. We were more educated. We were more caring and watchmen for our communities. Once things, our communities were desegregated, look at what happened. We completely now, almost like removing ourselves from our heritage that got us to this place. So I totally agree with you. And it's nothing wrong with wanting to preserve your family, because that's what it is. When you make out a will, you're making a will out to what? To take care of your family. I'm not making a will out to people I don't know. It's going to be what? Within my family. That is biblical. Right. So, but the problem with it is I saw, one of these Christian apologists, they took my term when I said, hey, you know what? Regardless of whether I agree with my brothers and sisters or not, they're still my family. Right. But they started talking in this video saying, bashing me, saying, hey, wait a minute. If your brother don't accept Christ, he's not your family. And other people saying that's right. Wait a minute, but show me where that is in the scriptures. That if your brother don't believe in Christ, then now guess what? You kill him, you murder him. You know what I mean? Destroy him. But that's what religion has done to our community. Other communities don't destroy their own family, but our community, if you don't believe what I believe, guess what? I'm going to kill you. I'm going to attack you. I'm going to separate myself from you. That is not biblical. Now I understand that, hey, like people use the scripture, how can two walk together unless they agree? The two agree. Guess what? That's really dealing with Israel and the Most High Yah. That's what it's really talking about. It's not talking about us completely separating ourselves from brothers. That, it's talking about how can we walk with the Most High Yah and we're not in agreement with him by following his laws, statutes, and commandments.
Right. Okay. Well, I have a scripture here to kind of, and then we'll begin to wrap this up and conclude it. But I got a scripture here. It's Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 1. And it says, gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, right. O nation not desired. We're not desired. These other nations don't care about us. And the Bible also says you will know them by their fruits. Look at how these folks treat you. A lot of us, though, are so thoroughly brainwashed, thoroughly brainwashed. I was for years. And I had a rocky time until I realized that we are all we got. We're all we got. And, he tells us don't envy not your oppressor. It didn't say, well, you could choose a little bit of his ways. It said don't choose any of his ways, And we have to be that example of how to walk this thing out in spirit and in truth, And while to a certain degree, I agree with what Kelly said. I'm not, I got a brother at my job who's a non-messianic. And, we went back and forth with the scriptures, but what I found to be more efficient in dealing with this brother is just my character being a testimony to him, and certain things he slowly begin to understand my stance on, But that's the thing is, the key is having that high moral character, because the whole book is pointing you towards getting your mind right, getting your heart right, getting that aligned, with the Most High Yah's ways and everything like that. So,
hey, can I share one quick thing before we wrap this up? Just one quick thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Go ahead. I'll let you conclude, and then after that, Ugo could give his closing statement too.
And it's to your point about even though we may have disagreements, we still community. I have someone that works for me, right? And he's from India. And I'm at work. This happened 2 weeks ago. I'm at work. We're at work. And he was dealing with an issue, a technical issue. And he pulls out his phone and he types in his phone the issue real quick. And I notice, I'm like, okay. And then he, 2 minutes later, 5 minutes later, he has an answer. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. And I'm looking at him. I said, okay. I said, I saw everything what you just did. So you're going to have to share with me what you just did. Right? This is powerful, guys. This is what community is. He says, right? His community is thousands of them that's connected to a network. Many of them are lawyers, doctors, programmers, teachers, that they all tie into this network, right? So if one have an issue, a question, to help them be proficient in their job, to help them for the betterment of what the entire community, he puts it out there for someone to respond and give them an answer.
Wow.
Right? And I'm sitting there like, wow. Take it a step further. A company that I was doing consulting work for a year ago, right? You have 30 guys from India there, 30 to 40 at the most, right? Both male and female. When I say guys, male and female, right? One will go to this the snack machine, get a bag of chips, come in and walk around with the whole entire group, and each person is taking a potato chip out of that bag. Eating out of the same bag. No one's complaining about one having more than the other. No one's complaining about the brand of potato chip. But though they have disagreements, but look at how they're operating as a kingdom.
Wow.
So why can't we do that among our community? That's what Hugo pointed out, just like what you pointed out, even though we may have our disagreements, but guess what? In the end, we all are still part of the same nation. How do we start? When do we start building in spite of our differences? So I just want to share that, because that right there, man, when I say that, just had me like, wow, that had me a little jealous. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you guys can understand, kind of like a sweet and sour moment.
Yeah.
I was a little jealous. Like, why can't we have that in our community to where it's low? Let's just say, I know you good with production. I know you good with cars. To where so we have a network through that somebody could just text you and say, bam, put a text out there, and you say, hey, here's the answer, boom, 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 bang, and then they shine on their job wherever they are, wherever they are around this country. And with that being said, go ahead.
And just real fast on what you said, because that was so daggone heavy. It's like, and when you really look at the word and look where all the laws, statutes, commandments, everything in there, what it's pointing you to is pointing you to that. Because what you just said there, that's the second commandment, love your brother,
Exactly. And that's what we have to truly understand, what it means to be a community. And that's what the law, statutes, and commandments teach us. It teaches us to what? Build up our brothers and sisters, not tear them down at every opportunity. Yah said, he said, I am God. I am Elohim, not man. You know what I mean? He made it clear in the scriptures. So with that being said, I just wanted to put that, my final thought out there is, in order for us to do better, we have to do better. Simple as that. In order to do better, we have to just do better. It's not that deep, but we have to come together in spite of our differences.
Right.
So with that being said, I really appreciate you, Ak, for having this discussion here. And I want to appreciate Ugo for having this dialogue as well. I really appreciate all our brothers and sisters that have tuned in. And I thank you again. And let's have more of these discussions that's going to really help bring us together even more. Especially with the platform that you have, the powerful platform. So again, I appreciate you. I want to say shalom, lak, mashpaka, which is in Hebrew, it is well with you, family. And so I turn it back over to you, Ak.
All right. Ugo, go ahead. I'll let you give your closing statement.
Well, okay. I don't have much to say, but we can't let things like this Covington incident get us off track as a people. We got to continue to come together. We got to do better, just like Richardson Kelly said, doing better by coming together as a nation of people, not necessarily sharing the same ideas or the same doctrines, but just coming together on the fact that we are the same people. That's how we're going to win this thing, because we have to understand that the Most High is waiting for us to do our job. He said he'll do his job, but he's still waiting on us. So once we do that part, okay, then he's going to come and clean us out as a people, as a nation of people. He's going to get rid of all the doctrines we need to get rid of, all the bad blood and everything else. So, we got to do better, come together and just get ready for everything that's coming, down the line shortly here. And that's all I got to say. And Mike Israel, I want to thank you for having me on the show. This dialogue was great, and hopefully we can have more in the future.
Yeah, and I absolutely, we're going to do more of this. And I just want to say, thanks to these two brothers and then the other two brothers that work behind the scenes that y'all don't know, John, Yehukanan Yasha'Allah, and my man, Tony Poe Maccabees. You know what I'm saying? I really seen these brothers truly, all four of these brothers truly exemplify that law of brotherhood, that second commandment today and yesterday, and really look to really come together in a closer, go from this to this, and it's just a real exciting time with a lot of the unity I'm seeing in the Hebrew Israelite community. I know y'all saw, I put that picture up with me, Ron Dalton, and Zabat there, simply because Zabat, when we were up there, he was talking along the same lines about just really making an effort to come together and really supporting our brothers and sisters. And I mean, especially along the lines of what Kelly said, I'm going to have Kelly come on just to elaborate on that story he just told, because that's a whole nother show right there. That was so heavy. And I mean, we're moving towards that, but even in the Hebrew Israelite community, we're still so far from that. But I will say that with the circle of brothers I deal with, we have that type of brotherhood to where there's certain people I know I could call on for damn near anything, you know? And like I said, man, it's an exciting time. All praises to the Most High. It's all about that book and living that book out. But yeah, man, really, really exciting time. But with that said, man, I appreciate all y'all tuning in. Appreciate y'all tuning in to watch Spiritual Combat. I should be going on live later on with the news. I've contacted a bunch of people who were supposed to come on. They didn't return my calls. I know they're busy, but should be on later with the news. There's a lot of information I need to put out about events. Ron Dalton, I talked to him earlier today, actually yesterday, and he was just telling me about how many new things have occurred as far as with him and his movie and what he's doing. There's a lot of events going on today and coming up in the coming weeks. So definitely check out the news when I do it. It's going to be some very informative information. Anyway, with that said, I'm Michael Israel. You watching Spiritual Combat. And shalom, y'all.
We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities,